Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, you're welcome to Sew with Mediva. And if you're a returning subscriber or a returning viewer, thank you for sticking to my channel. So in today's video, I'll be showing you guys how to cut and sew this ruched skirt two-piece set, and I achieved this style using 2 yards of ribbed fabric. You can also make use of a stretchy crepe fabric to make this style. So if this is something you are interested in, make sure to keep watching, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe. So I made use of 2 yards of this ribbed fabric. So this fabric is called a ribbed fabric or a knit fabric, and it is very stretchy. And I used 2 yards of the fabric, but you're going to need up to 2.5. I had to manage mine to make this two-piece. So let's go ahead to draft out the skirt. So I have my pattern paper here and it's not in a fold. So the first thing we're going to do is to mark out a starting line at the upper part of the paper. This is going to serve as the waistline. So from that line, I'm going to come down to mark my hip line. So your hip line is the widest part of your lower body. And for mine, from my waist to my hip line is 10.5 inches. So go ahead to mark your own correct measurement. And the next measurement is from my waist to my knee line. My knee line is 24 inches. And then the full length of this skirt is supposed to be 43 inches, but my paper is not long enough. I'm going to add it on the fabric. So I'll go ahead now to extend these lines. So after marking your own correct measurements, go ahead to extend the lines this way. So because this fabric is very stretchy, I will not be adding any seam allowance to my measurements. So on the waistline, I'm going to mark my round waist measurements divided by 4. Mine is 8.5 inches. And on the hip line, I'll mark my hip measurements divided by 4. Mine is 11 inches. Go ahead to mark your own measurements. So I'll connect the point using my curved ruler this way. And then on this knee line, I'm going to measure what I have on the hip line and subtract 1.5 inches from it. So I'll have 9.5 inches left. I'm going to mark 9.5 inches on the knee line and connect it all the way up to the hip line. Then I'll extend from that knee line all the way down to the full length of my skirt. So this is all for now on the skirt pattern. Let's go ahead to cut it out. So we're going to use this same pattern to cut out both the front and the back panels, but we're going to start with the back panel. So after cutting out, I'm going to place this pattern on my fabric. I'll fold my fabric into two this way and then place my pattern on. So towards the center back, I have an allowance of 1 inch towards the folded angle. So I added this allowance because I'll be having a slit at the back of my skirt. So this allowance can also serve as a zipper allowance if you are adding one to yours. So I'll go ahead now to cut this out from the side. And then I'll pin the side so that my pattern does not leave my fabric, because the fabric is very stretchy. And then I'll proceed to cut it out. So to the full length of my skirt, remember I said I wanted 43 inches and I have 39 inches on the pattern paper, so I'm going to extend it by 5 inches because of the folding allowance. So that will be a total of 44 inches. And then cut it out. So after that, I would rip the center back opened because of the slit at the back, and it can also serve as a zipper allowance if you are adding a zipper to yours. So I'll set the pattern aside and show you guys what we have. So we have two pieces of the back panel, as you can see. So I'll go ahead and place them right sides facing each other. So I'll place the fabrics right sides facing each other and go ahead to close up the center back. So I'll close it from the waist all the way to my knee line. So I want my slits to start from my knee line, which is 24 inches. So I'll stop closing at that point, and after that I'll go ahead to fold in the edges of the fabric and stitch it all the way down. So for the front panel of this skirt, we're going to alter the pattern we drafted out initially, and we're going to be using the slash and spread method. So from the knee line, I marked 2 inches all the way up till I got to 20 inches on my tape rule, and then I'll extend the lines this way. From my knee line, I just marked 2 inches all the way up, and this is me extending the lines. After that, I'll go ahead to number the lines so that I don't get confused. So we're using the slash and spread method to create that ruched design in front. So I don't want the ruche design to get all the way to my knee lines. So I'll just stop on that number 7 line so that the ruche design falls only between that part of my skirt. So I'll go ahead to place this pattern on my fabric in a fold of 2. So I have extra 1 inch towards the center front as well. And then I'll go ahead to slash my pattern this way. So I'm going to make sure to have 2 inches between each pattern after slashing. So like I said, I'm going to stop slashing at the number 7 mark and then proceed to spread my patterns out. I'll spread it to make sure I have 2 inches between each pattern. So after spreading out, this is what it looks like, and I went ahead to pin it down to my fabric. So I'll proceed now to cut this out. So go ahead to cut it all the way down. So remember that for the back panel we added extra 5 inches to the full length of the skirt, so I'm going to be doing the same thing on the front panel. So I'll rip the center front open. I'll be leaving a 1 inch allowance there. This is going to help us create the passage for our ruche design. So I'll go ahead to open up the center front this way. You can as well have your slits in front. It just depends on what you want for yours. So before I take out my pattern paper, I'm going to notch where I want my ruche design to stop on the side of my fabric. Just go ahead to notch it on both fabrics. Go ahead to notch it and then remove your pattern paper. So after that, we have 2 pieces of the front, as you can see, and I'll go ahead to close it up all the way down. I'll use that 1 inch allowance to close it up, and then I'll show you guys the next thing to do. So after closing up, this is what we have for the front. I also went ahead to stitch down the allowance down so that I can create the channel for the rope. So I stitched down up to the point where I want my ruche to stop. And for the back, I have also gone ahead to join the 2 pieces together, and I finished up the slit opening. The next thing I'm going to do is to pass in our ropes through the channel. I have 2 ropes here. I have stitched down and turned over to the right side, and this is what we have. So before we do that, I want my skirt to have a band on the waistline, but I forgot to do that while I was drafting out the pattern. So I'm going to come down by 1 inch and just cut it out on the waistline. So after doing this, you're going to realize that the waistline of your skirt will become bigger. So go ahead to shape it back to your normal waist measurement. So I'm going to just cut out the excess I have. So you can as well do this while you are drafting your pattern. I just forgot to take out mine while I was doing that. So I will be taking out 1 inch on both sides of my waistline and just shape it into the hip line this way. So after that, I'll use my pin to pass in my rope. So this is the closed part of my rope. I'll then go ahead to pass it in through the channel that we created. So this is me just passing one of my ropes into the channel. So pass it in all the way up and then stretch it out. So go ahead to stretch it out so that the rope goes in completely into your channel, and then stitch it down. So I'll repeat the same process for the other side. I'll pass in the other rope and then I'll show you guys. So after I pass in the rope and stitch down, this is what it looks like. This is what we have. So when you wear your skirt, you're going to use this rope now to create that ruched effect in front. This is what it will look like in front. You can see how beautiful it looks already. The next thing I want to do is to join the front and the back panels together, and I'm going to take out that 1 inch waistband that I took out in front, and then I'll use the front waistline to shape the back waist, just as you can see. And after that, the next thing is to join them together. So I'm going to merge the waistline of the front and the back panels together, and then use my pin to hold it down. So I'll do the same thing for the other side, and then I'll go over to the base of my skirt and merge them together as well. So remember that your front panel is longer than your back, so that is why you have to join it this way. You have to pin it down first before you join it. So I'll pin the other side as well, and then after that I'll go ahead to just ruch the front of my skirt this way, and then you have to gather the front panel into the back. So to make this easier, go ahead to pin that notched part of your skirt, pin them together this way, and then pin the other side. So these sides are going to have a normal straight stitch without gathers. So what you're going to do next now is to use your pin now to just gather this front panel so that it fits into the back this way. Go ahead to gather it. On the other side, you're going to do the same thing, and then I'll go ahead to stitch it all the way down using 2 inches allowance. This is because my fabric is very stretchy, so I use 2 inches now to close up the sides, and this is what it looks like. You can see how beautiful the skirt looks already, and this is what the back looks like. So I'll go over to my sewing machine now and just finish up the base of my skirt. I'll trim out any excess I have and then go ahead to fold it twice and stitch it all the way down. The next thing we want to work on is our band, and before we do that, remember we're going to be using half an inch to join the band to the waistline. So I'm going to just come down by half an inch and make a slight opening on my fabric this way, and then I'll bring out my rope through this new opening. So we came down by half an inch because of the waistband. It's going to serve as the joining allowance to the waistband. So from the center front, I'll measure what I have all around the waistline of my skirt and use it to cut out my band. So the wideness of the waistband is 3 inches and the length is just 2 inches longer than what I measured on my skirt. So I'll go ahead to rip the center back of my skirt open. I'll just come down by 1 inch and then flip it over to the wrong side. So make sure the fabric of your band is stretching just like your skirt. So I'll place the band now on the wrong side of my skirt this way on the waistline, and then go ahead to stitch it together using half an inch all the way to the back. So when I'm done, I would fold the band to the right side, flip it over now to the right side, and then fold the band this way, and then fold in half an inch again and just stitch down the band all the way around it. So make sure not to pull your fabric when you are stitching so that it doesn't come out rough. So stitch it all the way to the back. So when I'm done, I just closed up the center back, as you can see. The next thing we want to do is to work on our top. So at this point my fabric was not enough, so I had to join fabrics together, but I made sure to still use the very stretchy part of my fabric towards the side. So the width of the fabric that I have here is 14 inches, and I'll be doing a simple cut together sleeve top because I'm trying to manage my fabric, and the length is 18 inches plus the folding allowance. So this top is a simple crop top, so I won't be wasting so much time on it. So on the upper part, I'm going to mark my shoulder measurements divided by 2, which is 8 inches, but I marked out 7 inches because of the stretch. So the remaining part is going to be for the sleeve, and the neck width I use 3.5 inches, and the depth I also use 3.5 inches. I'll go ahead to connect the points together and just cut it out because you guys cannot really see the chalk on the fabric. So after that, I'll come over to this open angle and cut out my shoulder slope. I used half an inch, and from that point I'll come down to my from the shoulder I'll come down to my bust point, which is 10.5, and towards this side I'll take the armhole opening of 7 inches. Note that this fabric is stretchy, that is why I am reducing my measurements. And on the bust line, I'll mark my bust measurements divided by 4 and then go ahead to connect it all the way to the arm opening and then proceed to cut it out. So I'll use the same pattern to cut out the back, and this is what it looks like. So I want the neckline of my top to be a bit different, so I'm going to come up to one side and just take 4 inches extra and go ahead to connect it all the way to the neck. So you can decide to leave yours the way it was, it just depends on what you want, and then I'll cut it out. So I'll use this front panel to cut out the back. So the neckline is going to fall to one side this way. So I'll use it to cut out the back panel and show you guys. So after cutting out, I went ahead to pipe the neckline, and this is what so we have exactly the same thing for both the front and the back panels. So I'm going to place them now right sides facing each other and then close up the shoulder using half an inch. And then I'll fold in the edge of my sleeve. After closing up the shoulder, I'll fold in the edge of my sleeve. I'll fold in twice, and then when I'm done with that, I'll close up the sides using 1.5 inches. So after closing up the sides, I'll also finish up the base of my top, and that will be all on this tutorial. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.